Have you ever considered that we are living in a unique time, that something world-changing is about to happen, and that it might concern you? If so, you're in the right place. Keep listening, and you'll hear thought-provoking views behind the news that point to a new and better future for all. Many people now sense that humanity is not alone. So consider this. If the Christ or the Buddha walked among us today as modern men, would we recognize them? What would they be saying? And most importantly, would we listen? Every Sunday on this program, Share International Radio, we'll examine extraordinary events that are unfolding behind the headline news. This may be the message of hope you've been waiting for. And now, welcome to this week's show.
Broadcasting again from Vancouver in British Columbia, Canada. Well, folks, the unexpected and the really bad has happened. My guest today, Monte Leach, has developed sudden Skype problems, and we don't know for sure whether they will be resolved during the course of our show. So please bear with me, and we'll just muddle along as best we can here. And I will be able to cover a lot of the information that Monte was going to share with you and with me. So let's see where this takes us. And fasten your seatbelts. As you know, our central premise on Share International Radio is a very special one. Number one, that we are not alone. Number two, that we have help of an extraordinary kind at this extraordinary time in history with all of these problems that are going on that seem basically intractable, many of them at least. And that help comes to us in the form of great teachers who are now emerging onto the world scene to help and guide us through this precipitous time. At their head is the Lord Maitreya, known as the World Teacher, and expected by all of the religions under their various names, such as the Christ for the Christians, the Messiah for the Jews, the Imam Mahdi for the Muslims, and also for those of no religion, whatever. He comes as a modern man to help us with modern problems and would have us continue in our own traditions and religious beliefs, but simply as well get on with knowing more about ourselves and our own innate divinity, but also in helping to resolve the problems of the world so that we can indeed enter a new and golden age, as has been foretold by, again, most of the religions, and certainly a lot of the possibilities through science and medicine and culture and what have you. We present this information for your consideration only. If it has the ring of truth for you, we welcome you to share it as widely as you like. Our plan this week was to carry on from Monte's program last week, and our theme is experiencing the energies of the world teacher Maitreya and the masters of wisdom. I hope Monte will come back on, but we want to talk about some direct personal experiences people have had of Maitreya or the masters, the effect of their energies on world events, and how people can experience these energies for themselves directly in what is known as transmission meditation. Well, I was going to tell you what Monte was going to tell us about, but I don't actually know exactly his answer to my first question to him. He had told us about discovering the presence of the world teacher in Maitreya through a book by Benjamin Creme, that's C-R-E-M-E, called The Reappearance of the Christ and the Masters of Wisdom, and that he was struck by the energies of this message and also the energies that he had when in the presence of Benjamin Creme, who came shortly thereafter and lectured in his town. these energies are always released when Mr. Krem gives a lecture. They are a gift that Maitreya makes to the people in the audience. He does what is known as overshadowing Mr. Krem, and he can look out through Mr. Krem's eyes at the different people in the audience. Now, he's not looking at your thoughts or what you had for dinner or what your bank account is or anything like that. He's actually looking at your soul, the true you, and communicating, connecting with that divine essence of you when an overshadowing occurs. And it is indeed a most profound experience. Everyone experiences it differently. I've known some people who even fall asleep because the energies are just so potent and yet comfortable. One of my first experiences of an overshadowing was just really profound. I felt like I was coming home for the very first time in my life. That's how profound it was for me. Back to the personal experiences, though. Maitreya and other masters are physically appearing to people now, and they do so in one of three forms, either straight physical, or in dreams, or in sort of semi-solid vision forms. They do this for many reasons, very often to uplift, inspire, and encourage people as they are going through difficulties in their experience. It's a very I was going to say a very diverse nature of things that does occur during this experience. They're different for absolutely everybody. If you take a look at the Share International magazine, if you happen to subscribe to it, or even if you go to the website share-international.org, that's share-international.org, you will be able to read the column called Letters to the Editor. And these are stories, experiences that people have written in of their experience of one of the masters or Maitreya. And these are confirmed stories, and they are just so beautifully diverse. It's like receiving a box of bonbons every month when the magazine comes in. So I invite you to do that, to go and take a look at the www.share-international.org. That's share, of course, S-H-A-R-E, as in sharing. And that's my wish for you, that you might have these occur. Some of the general characteristics: very often the experience is something personal or quirky that only you could relate to or understand, and also that you never forget this experience. Maitreya, for example, often appears as a homeless person or a beggar to counteract prejudices that people might have against things like begging or smoking or drinking or what have you. But the experience of being looked at by this great teacher, of being actually seen, is as I said, very, very profound, and is usually very uplifting to whoever does experience it. So that is one of the topics. Monte was going to share with us a story of his that was recently published in Share International magazine, whereby an experience with the hand of Maitreya, which is a photograph that is available on on the Share International site, or even if you Google Hand of Maitreya, Maitreya, you'll be able to see and read about this story. We're not going to have time to go into it in too much depth just now, but I do encourage you to do that. It is a representation of specifically Maitreya's hand. It can be used to communicate with him internally, and it can be used for prayer, for healing, for all of these things, and is the closest we can actually come physically to Maitreya at this time. The photograph can be used in any form, so you can just take a print of it right off your computer and use it in that way. So I know this sounds a little helter-skelter, but I encourage you to actually do that. And just to mention, after the break, we'll be talking about not so much personal appearances, but how Maitreya has made some appearances to world leaders, and how the energies, his energies, and the energies of the masters can and do have an effect on world events. In a later segment, if we can get that set up and you can stay tuned, we hope to be able to play a recorded message of Maitreya for you at the end of the show, and we'll get into that a little bit later. Please stay tuned. You're listening to Share International Radio here on OMTimes Radio. Back with you after the break. Thank you. See you then.
Feed your soul with Waves of Consciousness on OMTimes Radio.
Want to help humanity and the planet? Transmission meditation is a simple but powerful way for you and 2 or more friends to do just that and dramatically accelerate your own spiritual growth. You can read the book on transmission meditation free online. Visit shareontheairradio.org for details. That's shareontheairradio.org. shareontheairradio.org.
Are you ready to shift your energy, consciousness, and limiting beliefs? Join me, Shefali Burns, every Monday at 5 p.m. Eastern on Shifting with Shefali here on OMTimes Radio. Shift the blocks, limitations, and negative energies that have kept you from experiencing a life filled with joy, peace, love, abundance, and happiness. Are you ready to shift with Shefali? Are you ready to shine your brilliance?
What if living didn't have to be so serious?
What if you could move beyond your problems with greater confidence and ease than you've ever imagined?
Throw your labels out the window and join the Irreverent Therapist for practical tips and a very different way of approaching the changes you would like to create.
Marilyn Bradford
and Pam Hodling
have empowered hundreds of people to come out of self-judgment, quit looking to experts, and begin to create the lives they desire.
Join us Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern on the Irreverent Therapist Show.
Your conscious connection to a more mindful world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Hello, people. This is Diana back with you, and unfortunately, we still have not been able to make a connection with Monte Leach, the U.S. editor of Share International magazine. So I'll continue along solo. I hope you're enjoying the program, although Monte would have been a very personable and interesting guest to hear from. In segment 2, we wanted to talk about the appearances Maitreya has made to some of the world leaders and how his energies and those of the masters now emerging onto the world scene, the masters of wisdom, these perfected beings who for aeons now have been directing the evolution of humanity from behind the scenes. Every now and then they send one of their number into the outer world to help and guide us. And this happens almost like clockwork at the beginning of a new age, where it is the people themselves who send up a cry asking for this help and guidance to weather this kind of transition and basically help us through it. So right on cue, we are beginning now, as many of you will know, the age of Aquarius. And once again, a great teacher has stepped into our midst. What is different this time is that there is a group appearance being made. There are now a total of 14 masters in the world, according to Mr. Krem, and they are emerging very rapidly onto the world scene. Let's talk about one of the earliest appearances, large-scale appearances that Maitreya made since coming into what is called his point of focalization in London, England, in July of 1977. He emerged from his own retreat high in the Himalayas and came down onto the plane and took an airplane to London. I wonder what he would have said when the customs officer asked him if he had anything to declare. That's an inside joke for some of us listening at this time, because Maitreya will be declaring his status and his availability to help us, as I said, on our midst. But let's talk first about this large-scale appearance, the first he made, which was in Kenya in June of 1988, as part of a new phase of his emergence, a much larger one than in the community where he had been living and teaching and gradually coming forward in London, in the Indo-Pakistani community there. The appearance in Kenya was a dramatic one. It was at a prayer meeting led by a nun called Sister Mary Akatsa, who is a famous preacher and healer in outside of Nairobi. At this prayer meeting, there were 6,000 people gathered, and all of a sudden, Mary Akatsa said, "We are going to be visited by a great being," a somewhat startled look on her own face. And Maitreya appeared next to her, stood next to her, dressed in a fashion that the people there could relate to. He spoke in perfectly unaccented Swahili for about 13 minutes, talking of his concerns and hopes for humanity. He blessed the people, and after a few short minutes afterwards, disappeared, leaving in his midst the 30 or 40 people that had been most directly near to him were completely cured of their particular problems or ailments. This story was covered. There happened to be a journalist in the audience called Job Matungi, who wrote up this event in the Nairobi Times. The story was carried on CNN and in other popular news media, and there was even a picture of Maitreya at this prayer meeting standing next to Sister Akatsa. And I am very touched by that picture, which I've seen, because it seemed to me that standing next to a pole in the tent where they were, standing pretty close to Maitreya, was a person who seemed to be suffering from the elephant man's disease. So he would, in all likelihood, have been totally cured of his ailments. So that was one of the very first appearances. Maitreya continued those experiences, and you can see the list of them on Share International, share-international.org if you look them up. And what he would normally do is appear at a prayer meeting or some gathering of this type, usually unannounced, out of the blue, talking to the people in their own language about these concerns, blessing them, and also in the vicinity of where these meetings occurred, Maitreya has been blessing and enlivening various water streams so that the water takes on healing properties and becomes actually lighter than the equivalent amount of ordinary water measured, because this blessing takes the form of light being introduced at the atomic level to the water. 3 of these great streams have been discovered so far. They are a gift for the Aquarian age, as Maitreya said, bringing back the Aquarian symbol being a man with a pitcher of water on his shoulder. So these streams, there's one that has been discovered in Nordenau, Germany, another one in Nadana, India, and the first one to be discovered was in a town called Tlacote, Tlacote, Mexico, about 2.5 hours drive away from Mexico City, as I recall. So there is another story that you can follow up in Share International, another one of the gifts for the New Age, and another way Maitreya is diffusing these energies, which he has to bring, energies of love, of light, the embodiment of the Christ consciousness at this time on this planet, although, as I said, he has come as the representative of the divine, no matter by what name you may refer to that. Currently, Maitreya, for the past a good couple of years now, I believe, Maitreya has been making television appearances, but not avowedly as himself, as a simple television guest who is letting us know his ideas about the how to solve our world crises at the moment, but not as the world teacher, simply as a, quote, ordinary person. And this for a very good reason, so that we get time and we get the opportunity to use our free will and understand and take on the message that he is bringing at this time for itself, a message of sharing, a message of compassion, a message of love, and so that we can take his recommendations to heart and begin to build this new civilization where no one is left out, where no one goes hungry, where no one is bored to death with their jobs. So we can relate to these ideas for what they are and adopt them for what they are, and not because of his actual stature. This, of course, in line with our own free will. So there have been something like 170 appearances. I'm sure someone will correct me with the correct number, but there have been some in the United States. There were some then in Mexico. More recently, Maitreya was speaking in Russia and in China, and now has been doing more work in the in the area of the Middle East. I'm not sure if he's doing broadcasts there, but he is very active in that area. This also reminds me that to mention another very touching aspect, I believe, of this story, and that is that Maitreya and the Masters very often will be physically there and acting as support and help in the great disaster areas of the world. There were stories in Share International of Maitreya appearing or working with the rescue workers in the very big earthquake that you may remember happened in 2011, right after the nuclear incident that went on there. So there are stories of that ilk in Share International. And another series of appearances that are going on is that Maitreya and some of the masters are sometimes joining with the people in these mass demonstrations that are going on to bring about a new and better world. The demonstrations on climate, the demonstrations for people power, all of these huge demonstrations are being bolstered and supported by the energies of these great teachers at this time, and there are stories of Share International where Maitreya has been actually photographed in different guises. Two things that we will be putting up on the website are the URLs, the links to two appearances, more recent appearances that you can see on YouTube. And these are Maitreya as the White Horseman in Tahrir Square in Egypt when those big demonstrations were going on and people were massacred. And also Maitreya as the Angel in White in Syria, where he appears in a violent mob situation and actually picks up someone who may already be dead or is definitely unconscious and returns that person to his family. Now, normally it would take 2 or 3 people to lift up an unconscious person, and Maitreya seems to scoop him up just like you would a pussycat. So be sure to check our website. That's our Facebook account. That's Share International Radio, and for the URLs to those appearances on YouTube of Maitreya, the world teacher, influencing world events and helping out as much as he can in as many ways as he can.
A conscious lifestyle for a mindful life. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Want to help build the coming golden age? Want to experience the Aquarian energies of love, light, and power? Transmission meditation is a simple way for you and 2 or more friends to do just that and accelerate your own spiritual growth at the same time. Check out Transmission Meditation at shareontheairradio.org. That's shareontheairradio.org.
Eros Evolution is where sexuality and spirituality meets. Join me, clinical sexologist Martha Tara Lee, on Eros Evolution on Thursdays, 4 p.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio.
Live with medium Lisa Phoenix, Mediumship Messages and Musings, explores mediumship and all things metaphysical. Lisa Phoenix invites you to reach above and beyond your everyday experiences, to explore new dimensions in the spirit world. She will do live readings to connect callers to their loved ones in spirit, shares engaging stories and teachings from her own personal experience, and will have intriguing conversations with other mediums, spiritual teachers, and healers to help you understand the metaphysical world so you can connect to these forces in your day-to-day life. Join your host on this magical and metaphysical journey into the world of spirit every Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time.
The Real Conscious Connection. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Back from the break. How do you do? Glad to see you back. It's Diana Holland, broadcasting from Vancouver on Share International Radio. Glad to have you back. in this third segment, we are wishing to talk about ways that you can experience the energies of Maitreya and the Masters directly and personally through a very simple and straightforward medium called transmission meditation. That's transmission as in a car transmission meditation, a meditation for the new age. This meditation was first given to Mr. Krem, Benjamin Krem, in the early 70s as a way to help bring in the energies that will shape this new age, the age of Aquarius. And these are energies of love, of light, of synthesis, of compassion, all great energies that go into a pool or reservoir from which humanity can then dip to bring about many improvements in the world today. Now, these are not only improvements in terms of peace and things of that nature, but also medical discoveries, cultural achievements, all kinds of ways in which society can move forward. And this energy is converted to those uses. Now, the transmission meditation is, the special thing about it is that it is a group meditation. It is done by 3 or more people on a regular basis, be that weekly, monthly, bi-weekly, whatever. 3 or more people meet and follow a very simple invocative procedure to start the energies flowing from the Masters to that group and from them through their chakras out into the world. It's a very straightforward meditation. You do not have to give up any religious beliefs or anything of that nature. You don't have to stop any habits you might have, such as, smoking, for example. It's basically a way to serve. And how it happens is that the group of assembled people serves as a kind of transformer, as in, voltage with electricity. The Master's energy usually has to remain on the upper mental and higher planes. It is so rarefied, so pure, so very potent that it does not descend on its own below those particular levels. And so the people involved step down those energies as they flow through their chakras and thereby act as transformers, just as battery transformers do, so that the electricity can be safely used and not electrocute you. Now, this is not, there is nothing scary or nothing to worry about having these energies flow through you. Some people actually feel them physically. Some people can see them or hear them. But this is absolutely not necessary. I know long-term meditators who can do transmission for hours on end without feeling anything at all, and that's perfectly fine. The intent, the two special things about the meditation, as I said, one is that it's performed in groups, and the other is that it is a meditation that is performed as a service to the world, to be able to make these energies available for these great transformations. At the same time, however, as you have these energies projected through your chakras, you nonetheless develop very, very dynamically in terms of your own spiritual growth. So that's growth. So that's a side benefit, but it is indeed a very strong one. So I would invite you to check out transmission meditation, and here are a couple of ways that you can do it. We will post the following information, the links, on the Facebook page, Share International Radio on Facebook, but I'll mention them now to you. You can visit the main Share International website, which is, as I said, share-international.org. That's share, SHARE-international.org. And you will find the heading Transmission Meditation in the left sidebar. And you will find everything there, including how to form a group, how to conduct a transmission meditation, or how to find a group in your own area. There is also a companion website called transmissionmeditation.org that has all of this information, lots of FAQs. And, oh, by the way, both of these sites have videos you can watch with Mr. Cram explaining the whole process and giving a lot of information in that way. And the third one, which is a real treat, is that you can download Benjamin Cram's book, Transmission, A Meditation for the New Age, for free. And you can do that by going to the Share International website, once again, share-international.org, and under Books on the left sidebar, you will find Transmission Meditation and be able to download it from there. So, as I said, not to worry, all this information will be posted on our Facebook page along with the URLs to those appearances of Maitreya in troubled spots of the world. Let's see, where would we like to go from here? All right. In terms of personal transmitting of energies, I'd like to talk very, very briefly about some historical references that one of the most common ways of the masters to work in the world is to work through the process of impressing disciples, whether those disciples know it or not, with ideas and energies that can help generate progress in the world. So all down the ages, name any great historical figure, and that person, be it Abraham Lincoln, Florence Nightingale, Mozart, any Schweitzer, any of these great people that have done important things for humanity have, whether they knew it or not, been impressed by one of the masters who stay mainly in the remote desert and mountainous areas of the world, and work either telepathically with people, a smaller group of people who know they are in contact with such masters, people like Benjamin Cram, for example, who is in daily and complete contact with his master, who gives him information on the progress of Maitreya's emergence, who can heal, who can counsel through Benjamin Cram, who actually writes an article every month in the Share International magazine, which you can read, along with those wonderful letters to the editor that describe many of these experiences that personal experiences that are being recorded in the magazine. So as I was saying, a smaller group of people know that they are working with the masters, and more people do so thinking that some of the good ideas they are having belong to themselves. This was the case, for example, with one disciple who was given the idea for the League of Nations. This was the precursor to the United Nations. He passed that idea along to Woodrow Wilson, who actually made it happen, and the League of Nations came in and did service at its time, at a very difficult time in history. So basically, in great healing and teaching and philanthropic work, there is often a master or Maitreya himself, impressing people with these ideas. Another good example of that is Gorbachev. Mikhail Gorbachev, who brought in glasnost in his country, which was the beginning of a great renewal in the communist world. Gorbachev was one person who knows fully well about Maitreya and works with him, and has even said that he is not averse to people knowing that about him. He and his wife Raisa made several visits to the great avatar Sai Baba in India as well. Definitely well connected and definitely doing a lot of good work in the world today. Just before we leave, I want to mention that when we come back from the next break, we'll be having a very, very interesting segment. So that is why I would like to talk right away about next week's program. Coming up next Sunday, the question is, why does the global capitalist system have such a death grip on humanity? And what can we do to break free forever? My co-host, Cielito Pascual, will be interviewing William Allen, a writer, journalist, carpenter, and longtime student of the Ageless Wisdom teachings, who raised a family living off the grid in Northern California. So Bill will be sharing the esoteric perspective on the great challenges of modern times, from World War II to the Middle East crisis to the staggering disparity we have now in wealth in the world today. And Bill will be illuminating how an understanding of the esoteric energies and emerging trends now can help us to resolve our very grave world problems and open up a way for the renaissance of all humanity. So I'm inviting you now, instead of at the end of the show, to listen in next Sunday, 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern, to this very interesting and illuminating program. Why does the capitalist system have such a death grip on humanity, and what can we do to break free forever? That's my co-host, Cielito Pascual, with William Allen next week on the program. See you back at the end of the break. Please do return for a message from Maitreya, a recorded message from Maitreya himself.
Free your mind. Expand your soul. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Are you on a spiritual path and want a quick reference guide? Look no further. The booklet Ageless Wisdom Teaching introduces key spiritual concepts, including reincarnation, meditation, and initiation. Download the book free online. Visit shareontheairradio.org for details. That's shareontheairradio.org. shareontheairradio.org.
If you've ever said, I do want it all. I do want happiness. I do want love. And I do desire the happily ever after fairy tale life, then this show is for you. Join me, Dana Nicole Brandon, for my internationally acclaimed show, Bridal Talk Radio, every Tuesday at 6 p.m. Pacific Time, where I'll bring you the top experts in the fields of communication, money, relationships, finance, pleasure, play, travel, sexuality, parenting, real estate, adventure, comfort, care, passion, and love.
Eros Evolution is where sexuality and spirituality meets. Join me, clinical sexologist Martha Tara Lee, on Eros Evolution on Thursdays, 4 p.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio.
The cutting edge of conscious radio. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Welcome back. This is Diana Holland of Share International Radio, inviting you to experience the energies of the world teacher Maitreya and the Masters of Wisdom, the theme of our program this week. Now, it's the last segment. We're going to do something a little bit unusual, and I hope it works technologically, and I hope that you will stay tuned for this very, very special event. What I'm going to do is play for you one of the 140 messages that were received from Maitreya during presentations by Benjamin Creme at Friend's House in London, England, from 1977 to 1982. These early messages were Maitreya's first approach through Mr. Creme to the general public. They contain fragments of Maitreya's teachings and just are very, very, very inspiring as to the role and the mission that people can have at this time in terms of solving the problems of the world. The messages have been collected into a book called, appropriately, 140 Messages from Maitreya. And you can find that online or at any of your regular book sourcing distributors. When you hear the message, what you will be hearing is Mr. Creme's voice, but amplified by Maitreya's ideas and energies. They are Maitreya's ideas. His energies poured through when these messages were delivered, and they were recorded at the time. And the energies were recorded along with the messages, such that when a message is played, the energies can again be diffused. And some people can actually feel them quite physically, although again, that is not any kind of necessity or importance. If you find some of the messages online or in the books, you are invited to say them aloud with focused attention. And again, they can touch your heart. So I will be playing one of these messages. I invite you to listen to it, not only with your ears, but to just be still and listen with your heart and find that very special place where you can truly hear and absorb these words.
Message number 81, September the 12th, 1979.
My dear friends, I am happy indeed to be with you once more, and to magnetize your aspiration in this way. My coming evokes in man a desire for change, a desire for betterment, however expressed. My energies engender in man divine discontent. All that is useless in our structures must go. There are many such which are unworthy of man today. Man is an emerging God, and thus requires the formation of modes of living which will allow this God to flourish. How can you be content with the modes within which you now live? When millions starve and die in squalor, when the rich parade their wealth before the poor, when each man is his neighbor's enemy, when no man trusts his brother, for how long must you live thus, my friends? For how long can you support this degradation? My plan and my duty is to reveal to you a new way, a way forward which will permit the divine in man to shine forth. Thus do I speak gravely, my friends and brothers. Hearken well to my words. Man must change or die. There is no other course. When you see this, you will gladly take up my cause and show that for man exists a future bathed in light. My teaching is simple. Justice, sharing, and love are divine aspects. To manifest his divinity, man must embrace these three. Please receive the blessing of Christ. May the divine light and love and power of the one most holy God be now manifest within your hearts and minds. May this manifestation bring you to the realization of your part in the great plan